Welcome back, Age of Sigmar Maniacs. Today we're going to take a closer look at the brand new Sylvaneth releases for the Age of Sigmar. The Wood Elves are here. Spiky bits. Make sure you stay in the trenches by becoming a supporter over on Patreon and also scoring yourself some free miniature swag in the process. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Check out our site, spikybits.com, for all the hot hobby tutorials, news, rumors on all your favorite hobby topics. And head on over to thelongwar.net. That's the home of the battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today. Oh man, there's so many dope looking releases this week for these guys. Here we got this, and then of course we got the Battle Tome, which we're going to talk about in a separate video because it's a lot to talk about right there. So I don't want to get too distracted as I show you guys these miniatures. But man, so we got 5 great kits here. Obviously Ariel, you know, the Ever Queen, on the dope ass Beetle right here. Everybody's been talking about her, but I am particularly smitten with these Kurnoth Hunters. These guys look fresh. They're on 50mm bases. They're way bigger than I thought they were, and I'm just really digging these guys right here. But we're gonna break it all down because everything here is so fresh and so cool looking that I just can't wait to jump into all this. And you know, I was looking through everything. And I was breaking it all down. I was like, man, these things are just so good looking. Like they're sculpted well. They have a whole bunch of different options inside of them for the most part. Now here's Drachia here. Now obviously she's a lot bigger than she used to be if you remember her from the old fantasy days. But I thought this was a Dread Knight base. It turns out she's actually a little bit smaller. No big deal. She's still, you know, got some options. I really dig this alternate kind of paint scheme here. Like you got your pastels here, which really play well into the whole like Fey mercurial kind of theme for these guys, right? And then you've got these like earth tones, which my beat slab is all earth tones. Like I love earth tones. It just speaks to me. I love earth tones. So I really like how they mix these 2 different colors, and of course the bark and everything, that's going to be the just straight earth tone. But I really dig the whole palette, the whole paint scheme here. Now we did a video in the past on their little bases that they came out with, and we followed the paint scheme, and it didn't quite come out the way that, you know, it looked like on here. Obviously these guys are, you know, the heavy metal painters, the Golden Demon guys and all that. Well, not necessarily Golden Demon guys anymore, but you know, so results may vary even if you use these colors here, but I still like the general palette to pull from and to use as a good baseline here. So let's take a closer look at her. You can tell she's probably not that many sprues, right? So you bust her open here, and the first thing you're going to notice is a new fresh ass full color kind of instruction manual here, which we started to see for some of the bigger kits, but now we're seeing for all of the kits, I guess, in Age of Sigmar, because all of these here have these kind of kits, and it kind of shows you like basically how to build it all. Again, you know, it's all like this super computer sliced you know, design and things like that. But then they got some different options for her arm weapons here, like the swarm of squirrelings. Then you've got flitter furies. Okay, say that 10 times fast. But so there's different options basically that you can arm her with, and you know, variant assemblies as they like to call it here. So just follow along with all the guides. You know, the yellow is basically telling you where your contact points are, correct way, raw, you know, reverse view and things like that. So it's very important to start here. I know we're men and we can all do this. You're like, oh, I don't need instructions. These days you really do need instructions, so make sure you adhere to these. Now here's, like I said, the base a little bit smaller than I thought it was, no big deal. And it's basically 3 smaller kind of, mostly clam pack size. I mean, they're bigger than clam pack, obviously, but it kind of gives you an idea that it's not quite as big of a kit as you might have expected. So, you know, maybe temper your expectations right there. And you can tell there's the insert or the little baby Carlos carrier there for, you know, she's obviously been hanging out with Drago in his Beats lab, taking a note from the Dread Knight. But there she is right there, and then she locks in around all this, and then it all just kind of goes together, like I said, all the slices and things. And you know, you have to be a little careful with these guys because they have all these like little hangy-onies, or Klingons as I like to call them, where basically you don't want to, you know, put them in just in a box and bust down at the game store. Like you want to make sure that you have a good transport solution here, because you don't want all your stuff kind of busting off as you go. So next up are the Tree Remnants. Again, another great kit, very small models, but you get that whole, like, you know, mercurial kind of fey. I like how you can go for the Sprite Remnants. They have that ice kind of mix, and then here, you know, the traditional kind of glowy skin kind of feel. And I really like how they have the different weapon options, like the Protector Glade, the Wave Pipes, or the Enchanted Blade here. And then, of course, you got your banner or your standard right there. Now, once you open these guys up, you'll notice some stuff about them right off the bat. Again, another full color instruction booklet, 2 full big sprues here. So really the only thing that makes these guys different is their arms, which you can kind of tell in the little diagram here. There's a couple of different, like, underneath kind of groin options, but for the most part, you know, that's what it's looking like to me. And of course they're on 32 mils, just like a Space Marine. So then once you start looking at it, you're like, oh, okay, how do these go together? Again, computer slices, you pop the head, you pop the torso in there, and then you put the head on, and the head comes with their Wood Elf, their lengthy Wood Elf mane wig right there. So very dope looking. But what you're going to notice is once you look at all the assemblies for those guys, you get back here for the Tree Remnants, then you get back here to this section, and for the Sprite Remnants, it's just basically the same thing, just with different weapon arms. So I'm almost wondering if you can magnetize these points right here where the yellow contacts are with a small enough magnet to kind of keep it together, so you could just basically head swap, you know, do a head swap and then maybe like an arm swap, so you can magnetize these guys. Now, I'm not sure if it's even worth doing that for these guys, but you know, that kind of gives you an idea of where you're at. You don't have to buy a complete new set of legs. They kind of for $37 US, which is the price point of these guys, they really kind of give you basically some reusable parts. So if you do get some legs and such, you know, you could, but I think the solution here, if they're even viable in game, which I'll leave all you armchair Sylvaneth generals to say in the comments, is maybe perhaps magnetizing them. And then you got the branch witch here with assistant Grubmans. We'll call him Mr. Grubbins. Mr. Grubbins right there. She's on a 32 mil as well. Here, we'll get a little closer to the camera. And you can kind of see another great, highly detailed clan pack. Very dope looking thing. I think this goes for 30, I want to say 33 US, but I like her posing. I like how she's basically like coming at you, getting ready to kind of reap some Nurgle, you know, ambushing some Nurgles, and about to reap her due right there with her enchanted war scythe. And then these guys, like, oh, I'm so all about these guys. They got little helper grubs. How cool is that? They're like, here, have some arrows, boss, and here's some arrows. And then they got, like, on the back when they're fighting, I think they actually help them attack in the rules. And then they are right there, the little weapon grub guys. So you can have them as a scythe, you can have them as the great sword, or with the great bow right there. And the cool thing about Age of Sigmar, which, you know, some of you 40k players out there might not agree with, is just the fact that you just roll the hit and then you roll the wound, and it's just the wound is based off the weapon itself, right? So there isn't that, like, comparing and contrasting, like, charts, you know, toughness and weapon skills and things like that. They just basically give you the values to roll, which is kind of what you do in a starter game, a demo game of 40k, or a demo game of fantasy. You know, you're telling the people, hey, just roll a 4 up, hey, just roll a 3 up. Well, now that's what the War Scrolls are telling us in here. So again, we got 3 sprues, boom, boom, and boom. Now, actually, you caught me. I didn't check to see if these were identical or not, and it doesn't look like they are. So you got 3 individual sprues, air quotes. Can I back that up? Yep, they are 3 individual sprues for 3 individual guys right here, which is kind of neat. Good to see the effort. Good guy GW coming through on that one. Now, if you open up the manual here, again, another full color manual, loving it. The yellow is where everything interfaces together, very easy to see. You know, sometimes in some of them early instruction manuals, I was like, where does this part go? It was so frustrating. I was like trying to figure it out, to follow the dotted line back, and I'm just like banging my head against the desk. I'm like, come on, guys, you gotta get on your instruction game. But they have. Turns out. Anyways, so kudos to them for really coming through. These things are looking dope. You got your alternate builds right here. Obviously dry fit all this, you know, that's the symbol there for dry fit. Eventually we'll be able to recognize all these symbols just at a quick glance. So again, another kit that you could magnetize at the shoulders. Now these are sockets, so it might be, you might have to put like a bigger magnet in there, and there's a 2-point connection on the sword. I'm not saying you couldn't do it, you could definitely do it. It just might take a little bit extra effort. And the shoulder pads, on here, if you have the warrior guys, they actually have shoulder pads, whereas these guys don't. So you could, well, no, it looks like they do. I take it all back. They have something a little bit different. So that's going to be interesting. Well, I'll leave that one up to you guys in the comments there. So here you can see the little helper grubs, the little ammo grubs. And then, of course, you got all sorts of little woodland creatures that you can glue on all over these guys. But remember, don't just throw these guys in a box and try to take them down to your game store, because you'll bust them all up, because they have all these grubbins and doodads all over them, which are kind of what really, you know, kind of puts them in the whole Age of Sigmar, you know, Mortal Realms kind of feel, I feel like. You know, this is good looking stuff, you know. It's $60 US. You basically the same price as some Centurions for Space Marines, you know, and they do come on 50 mil bases. They are bigger, like I said, than I expected. I thought they were around 40 mils. Never tell me the odds. But look at the posing on these guys. He's getting ready to come in, take a coup de grace. This guy's like running forward, shooting with his bow, all you know, Legolas style. And then you got this guy here with the scythe, also alternate. So very cool looking stuff. And then here's the sprues themselves, obviously very well detailed. We'll take a look at this one first. You got all your weapon grub things right here, your swords, your alternate weapons, they're all on here. So each one of these is like a self-contained little dude, but you kind of get the idea there, and all the stuff that goes on the shoulder pads and things. So very cool stuff. Actually, why are there 2 war scrolls? Oh, okay. Well, that's weird. So I guess you get an extra war scythe for some reason. That one's a 2-handed. Alright. Not exactly sure what that's about. And then, of course, something else I forgot to mention, all the rules are for the war scrolls, for the models themselves, are on the back of the instruction manual. They started that right around the time of the weekly White Dwarf. I want to say that's when they did it, about 2 years ago. But all that, I'm sure they won't change it. I'm sure. Oh, and here's the 50 mil bases, of course, just in case you didn't believe me. They are there. And then here's Ariel, the Ever Queen. Woo! On giant war beetle. Now this thing is the Archaeon size base. It's a 100 millimeter, I think, round base there. And of course, there's alternate resonant bases out there that you can pick up, you know, from Secret Weapon Minis or Elric's Hobbies, or actually, I think those are about the only people that actually have them right now. Maybe Dragon Forge, I'm not sure, I haven't looked at this stuff in a while, but you know, the stuff's out there, so if you want to get some sweet woodland bases, you know, go for it. So here's the Drop Beetle and all the weapons on Ariel herself, you know, stuff we already come to know from all of the fluff. Now, again, this is another kit that's got all these little doodads, you know, earrings and woodland jewels and little pieces of bark and stuff all over, you know, so this is going to be something, this is a showcase model. Don't just throw this guy in a box, because, you know, all the pieces will just bash all over it and fall off. Now, something that that is indicative of what we've seen in the past here is, well, no, I guess I take it all back. Did I mess it up? Or is this? Yep, there it is. So it's got the insert, like you can take this little sleeve off, right? And then it's got the little collector box, little elven collector box, Ariel the Everqueen. So that's kind of cool. Kind of reminds me of like one of those fat pack boxes for Magic the Gathering. You would just, you know, you could take the little sleeve off, and then it would have like some sort of guild or mana covering or mana colors on it, which is pretty cool. You know, it's a nice little, I mean, if you're going to spend that much money on a centerpiece model, it's nice to have a little collector's box you can put on the shelf too. So again, full color manual here, which will obviously help because this thing is ginormous. Like I said, boom, there's that base. Woo! Getting crazy. So there's the base right there. And then we get into all this, and it's only 2 sprues, but don't let it fool you. These are 2 ginormous sprues. Now this is a lot of beetle right here. So we're gonna show you an instruction manual. I'm gonna give you some ideas, because I noticed on the little feetsies here, we're gonna call them feetsies, that's the technical term, is they're kind of, like they're not pointed, like they come to a flat. So I can kind of almost tell that they're trying to use these to really take a lot of the weight of the beetle itself right here, which seems, I mean, even though it's going to be hollow, this is a lot of weight for a model. So my recommendation would be, you know, make sure this is going to set. Like I would build your feet into this thing first, right? Which we're going to see what they say in the instruction manual, but I would almost make sure plastic glue the sides together, like the halves together, is good, but I would use super glue on this when you're attaching it to the beetle itself so it doesn't sag, because it almost seems like it would almost sag under its own weight just kind of looking at it. And then of course you got the build up for Ariel right here, which, you know, she's got all sorts of doodads. The wings are actually pretty big. She's as big as a 40k Primarch, you know, from Forge World. She's pretty dope. I mean, you could take her off there and use her for all sorts of other different things, I imagine. I mean, you can make her a Saint Celestine if you wanted to, really. I don't see why not. So that would be really cool to see. I don't know how you'd place her on the table. I guess you could place her on these little wood branches and then put her on a base. That would be pretty neat. So there's that. And then, of course, you got the Drop Beetle right there. Now, let's take a look at the instructions and see what they're saying to do for putting this together, because like I said, it's a big kit. So here's Ariel right here, right off the bat, and you can kind of tell she just got all goes together like a traditional multi-part kit right there, with all the trimmings and everything and all the helms and everything. And then it gets into how to paint her. And then the Drop Beetle, they're basically telling you to put together the exoskeleton first, and all these little doodads, these little earrings and everything like that. And then back here, you start putting the torso together, and then it tells you to put the legs on. And again, I'd be careful with that, because you can kind of tell here, it almost looks like some of them have little pieces with flat pieces on them to give them extra strength. So seems like my fears were not unfounded there, right? And then you attach it all together, and then you're supposed to glue it down. So I would make sure that at this stage, these legs are completely dry and attached to the base itself. And then you can always take the base and make sure you planed it right. You know, when you got your legs sitting up, make sure you put the base on it just enough to try to make sure that it is on the same plane. So when you turn it to actually glue it down, that it would work. But if you're using super glue, it should set pretty quick, I'm imagining, and that way you'll know for sure. And then once you flip it over and glue it down, then you can start adding all the doodads and everything, all the extra weight, so to speak. But I would give it enough time to dry for sure. And then all that goes on there, and then Ariel herself goes right on top. And it looks like she has a peg and then a contact point right here. So be very careful with that as well, because you don't want her all busting off of that right there. So, and then it gives you her war scroll as well, which is basically a full color war scroll right there. Like, you don't even have to pick up anything else. But she is in the white dwarf from last week, which I think was 128, I want to say. Well, anyhow, this was a great looking kit. All of these are amazing looking. I really love these things. I mean, it's just such forward thinking that we haven't seen in a while. Like, Games Workshop's really bringing the heat when it comes to all this stuff. So I'm loving where they're going in this direction. And, you know, if you haven't tried Age of Sigmar yet, you can always get a demo game in at your local game store. I'm sure there's a lot of people that wouldn't mind teaching you. So here are the new releases for the Sylvaneth.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. Thelongwar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos.